Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and a Sportswriter show with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe as we come back to you on our usual Thursday night, 6 p.m. hour. A lot to talk about today. We have, of course, NFL Week 12 starting out tonight, which should be a great game. The Bengals-Ravens, a nice rivalry game to start out at, and one of the hotly contested divisions in football, along with the rest of the football that will go on this weekend. We're going to touch on a little college football as well with some breaking news that Nate just discovered online. Along with, with the fact that the Giants now look like they are tumbling towards having to draft a new quarterback next year, along with maybe the Patriots and some other teams. I want to put this to Nate, and we're going to go over some of the top number one draft choices at quarterback over the last 20 years or so and see what kind of grades we'll give them. So we're going to get to that later on the show. Nate, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine, sir. It's almost Friday, so I'm ready to go. I now, instead of doing 3 people's jobs, I do 5.
Nice.
Get paid for 1. So it's cool. It's really fun. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, I know. My job, they're trying to train me on new things, and I'm like, I just want to coast, man. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to coast. Leave me alone.
I don't mind doing the work. I just would like to get paid for 5 people instead of just doing 5 people's work and getting one person's salary.
Yeah, that's they're not offering me any more money for it either. So I'm in the same boat as you. So let's get on to some better. Let's talk about the breaking news of Jim Harbaugh, I guess, deciding, or the Michigan legal team deciding that they have no case and dropping their case and trying to override the suspension.
Yeah, they announced today that Coach Harbaugh will not coach Saturday at Maryland or in the regular season finale against Ohio State, which means there's not going to be a hearing on Friday, and the case has been formally dismissed. And Coach Harbaugh is going to take his punishment. Now, whether or not there'll be more punishments, I'm not sure. But the Big Ten is essentially through with it. They just are suspending him for the rest of the year. And then, the ball goes back into the NCAA's court. But my question is, why would you accept this punishment if you did nothing wrong? You wouldn't. You would fight it. You would go to the hearing on Friday. You would tell them to bring it on. And you would get a temporary restraining order, and you would fight this thing tooth and nail. But he knows that he cheated. If you look back at the facts, they were struggling. They were a struggling college football program, and all of a sudden in 2021, they started to win a lot of games that they used to lose. And they didn't really have an uptick in recruiting, Joe. They weren't one of these teams like Michigan State or another team that's hit the portal. They just got better all of a sudden, and I'm not sure how, except for potentially the cheating. So it's just a black eye on college football. It's a black eye on their program, and honestly, I used to hate them, and now I just am disgusted by them because I'd rather lose than cheat, Joe.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole thing is along the lines. Yes, they did start winning some more games, some big games, which he had never done. But in the long run, it didn't get him that brass ring, that title he always wanted yet, and probably will never get now. The question I have on the flip side of this coin, how much is this going to affect his future at Michigan? Of course, the speculations come out already. Where's he going to go in the pros? Who's going to pick him up? And I wonder, really, when you look, you can't take away from the fact that he's won everywhere he's gone. Whether now it's cheating, but I mean, at Stanford he won. Around with the 49ers he won. He didn't win any big games with.
Yeah, what has he won? I mean, does he have a winning record?
Yeah, he gets a winning record.
He's got a winning record, but you're saying he won something.
No,
he's never won anything.
I'm just look. A lot of these guys get coaching positions with less. I mean, is he going to be trying to do the Pete Carroll thing before the hammer comes down and evacuate the program and go back to the pros? But on the flip side of that coin is, Is he worth it? Is he, would it be better to give somebody else a chance if you're a pro team than to bring on all the headaches of Harbaugh? Because he is headaches. I mean, the thing about Pete Carroll is he might have left USC under suspicious circumstances, but he didn't have that personality that seems to grate on people. I mean, the thing I'm just looking at
everybody loves Pete Carroll.
Right.
Everybody loves Pete Carroll. He's a great guy. He's not only a winner, he's a great guy.
As an outside observer and not a Harbaugh fan and not a Michigan fan and never has been a Harbaugh fan, he seems to be one of these guys that is a short-term fixer and never really completes the job. So if a pro team is going to look at him now and say, okay, he's got to leave Michigan, he's got to get out of hell out of town. As an owner, I'm looking at it going, do I really want the headaches that come with Harbaugh? Because you don't know if he's going to complete the job. You know there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on your team and a lot of critics, and he rubs everybody the wrong way. So I'm just wondering about his future as a coach.
He couldn't get a job in the NFL before this. He tried to leave last year. Everyone knows it. Both coordinators left following the season. What's his name, went to the Ravens to work with his brother. The other offensive coordinator took off. And, it was rumored they left because they thought Jim was leaving. He wanted that Vikings job. He interviewed for it. Everyone knows he interviewed for it. And they were like, this guy's a dick, just like everybody told us he was. And they didn't want him to be their coach. They chose, this was 2 years ago, I'm sorry. They chose Kevin O'Connell, and that has proved to be a very good choice. As to me, he is the coach of the year. Him or DeMeco Ryans are the two coach of the year. We'll get into that later. But the guy's a jerk. And right now, not only you're going to have to deal with the dickish attitude, but then you're going to have to deal with all the hoopla and the media circus that's going to follow him around since the cheating scandal. And no NFL team is going to want to bring that on. And I don't know. Maybe he'll be out. I mean, he's going to coach again, no doubt. But I'm not sure it's going to be in the NFL right away.
Canada.
That would be awesome because then I wouldn't have to see his ass for a while. Go fly north, my friend.
All right, so let's get into the pro game. Midweek comes out. Deshaun Watson done for the year. No one wants to see somebody injured. He probably played his gutsiest game of his career since he decided to go into the tank after losing to the Chiefs a couple of years ago. But it all for nothing. And now the Browns are left with a great defense, and they don't have their best running back. They don't have their $40 million quarterback. And still I hear people saying they have a great chance of making the playoffs, and I don't see a way they can do it with what they have.
I do. I mean, I think they've got a shot. They've got a stellar defense. I mean, Deshaun Watson hasn't been tearing it up all year anyway. Their defense is just lights out. They might have the best defense in all of football. And, this year, for whatever reason, teams that can stop people are winning games. And I'm talking about Pittsburgh. I'm talking about Cleveland. I'm talking about some of the other teams that can actually stop people. And I don't know. I'm not saying they will make the playoffs, but, stranger things have happened. I think this might, definitely lower their chances. But Deshaun Watson wasn't playing that great anyway all year.
You got to remember one thing. Pittsburgh has a proven Super Bowl winning coach. DeMeco Ryans looks like he's an upside. He was a great defensive coordinator out with San Francisco. He's on his way up. Stefanski, we've seen his body of work. I don't know if he's the guy who can be the coach that can get these guys to play above the level like they're going to have to do this. I don't know. Maybe they will. You and I both said, we both like that division coming in. Cincinnati now has work to do after losing to the Texans. Extra work.
I mean, that's the thing. The time that someone says, "Oh, the Bengals are back. They're going to take over this division. They're Joe's healthy. Here we go." Then they stub their toe and they lose to the Texans at home. Not to mention Sam Hubbard is hurt. Trey Hendrickson is hurt. T. Higgins is hurt. I know that Hubbard is out tonight. Higgins is out tonight. I'm not 100% sure on Hendrickson, but they've got injuries. They're not infallible. Everybody was like, oh, the Ravens are the best team in the AFC potentially. And then they blow a 14-point fourth quarter lead to the Browns. And so, how great are they? I'm not 100% sure. The Steelers are a good, defense and, have found a way to win games, but they can't get 200 yards of offense in a game. So I'm not 100% sold on them either. So, I like all these teams in facets, but I don't think that anybody's going to run away with it.
I don't know. I just think that the Cleveland's offense, I don't know, without Deshaun Watson and without
it's going to come down to DTR. DTR, if he plays like he played in his first start earlier in the year, they have no chance.
Let's just put it this way: I feel a little better if they had Chubb.
I'd feel a lot better if they had Josh Dobbs.
Yeah,
they traded him away for nothing and moved on from him and went with PJ Walker and drafted the rookie Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Now, I like DTR, but I'm not sure he's ready to get a team to the playoffs.
It's nice you brought up Dobbs because now he's become everybody's one. And I root for him. I like the kid. I think he's a great story. He's proven to be I kind of compare him to Fitzmagic right now. He's, he hasn't been given the chance. We don't know. Maybe he will be the kind of guy who will turn into a Kurt Warner or something. I don't know. But at this level, he's everybody's favorite backup quarterback when he comes to town. And I hear everybody crying, because the Cardinals released him and Minnesota was smart enough to pick him up right away. I hear a lot of Jet fans talking about it and stuff. It's like, well, he was out there, you saw what he could do with the Cardinals. Even when the Cardinals were losing, he was keeping him in games.
The Jets should have got him. Yeah. The Jets should have gotten Carson Wentz. The Jets should have gotten anybody. Colt McCoy, Josh Dobbs. I don't care. They should have gotten someone. I don't know if you watched the game on Monday night or Sunday night when once again Zach Wilson throws it to the other team right into Robert Spillane's hands to end their chances. He does this every single time. They all know it. And they keep pretending like the quarterback isn't the problem, but the quarterback is the problem. They got other problems on offense besides him, but he's the biggest problem, and they know it, and they knew it last year, and they didn't do anything to get him out of Dodge, and that's why they are not going to make the playoffs because of him.
Well, I want to get to the Jets right now, as long as you bring it up because I kind of brought it up too. But anyways, the Jets, we all know Zach Wilson is not the answer. That's fine. When I look at the Jets right now, I'm wondering about their backfield. They don't seem to have a role for Cook. They have their primary, but then they let go of a good young guy like Michael Carter. I guess the guy wasn't getting enough touches or whatever. But there was reports this week in their locker room, they elevated this rookie to take his place, and there was no local press was doing an interview, and the veterans were going by going, "We'll miss you, Michael Carter," behind this poor rookie getting his interview. This Jets team seems to not, or Robert Saleh sometimes and Joe Douglas don't seem to have a finger on the pulse of their locker room, like how they loved Mike White last year, and they kept trying to go back to Zach Wilson. Maybe Mike White should have been the guy they kept, and they should have let Zach Wilson take the walk. We've gone round and round with this with Robert Saleh, and right now around here especially, he's starting to lose credibility because, especially with the decision with Zach Wilson now, put somebody in there. Put anybody in there at this point.
Well, they don't have anybody else. Trevor Simeon's the only other quarterback they even have on the roster. And, I think he's on the practice squad. Yeah, he can be. That's the scary thing is that he can be. Zach Wilson can at least run the offense between the 20s and he gets them down in field goal range, Trevor Siemian could throw it to the other team even more than Zach Wilson. He could fumble it. I mean, this offensive line is garbage. You talk about the backfield. Michael Carter was not having a good season. There was some off the field things that were causing problems. He's fumbled the ball. He got the chalk block penalty that was crucial in the last game. I mean, he's just been kind of a disappointment all year long, and he wasn't very good last year. So I don't really have a problem with them cutting him and moving forward with Israel Abakande out of Pittsburgh, because I really like that kid coming out in the draft, and I can't understand why he hasn't gotten any touches. But let's be honest, they already have two good backs. They've got Breece Hall, they've got Dalvin Cook, and they struggled to those guys get their yards, but they can't even really block that well for those guys because the offensive line is complete garbage. They've got injuries there. They're on their third center of the season. They have nobody else to take over if Tippmann were to get hurt. And, Becton is Becton and Max Mitchell. Those guys have actually done a fairly decent job, but they just have injuries all over the place. Billy Turner's hurt. Connor McGovern's on IR. Their offensive line is just a mess.
So does this give Joe Douglas and Saleh a pass, figuring they lost Rodgers? The offensive line has been beat up. Does this give them a pass, or is the fact of the matter that Zach Wilson's been shoved down our throats kind of a death knell for Saleh if he ends up losing?
I have no idea. I mean, I would think that he's, able to be fired just like everybody else. I mean, I would think both these guys should be in trouble because, Rodgers going down was a major blow. But this team, was supposed to be really good around them, and they are, but they're not winning. And they're not winning because the elephant in the room with leaving Zach Wilson on the roster, that was a huge mistake. Both these guys should take heat for that, because if I was the head coach, I'd be like, listen, I'm not going out there with this guy as my number 2, okay? Because you're one play away, as we've seen in this league for a long time, Joe. You're one play away from whoever is your backup quarterback going into the game. Hell, you may be 2 plays away from your third string guy going into the game. So you have to have somebody who can play.
I love the Giants.
Bingo. That's what I'm saying. I mean, some teams are on their third, fourth guy at this point. You have to have a thought process going into the back end of your quarterback room, especially when you're trying to make the playoffs and you have a very good roster around you.
And then the Bills drop an egg on Monday Night Football. I mean, we looked at the AFC East coming into this year, and you looked at it. If everything had worked out well, you're thinking, wow, 3 of the teams are playoff bound. The fourth are the Patriots, who you thought if they could straighten out the Mac Jones situation, they could at least make it difficult for the rest of the teams and maybe be one of those 8-win, 9-win teams and maybe slide into the playoffs just because of Belichick being Belichick. But the way it looks right now is the Bills are heading in the wrong direction. The Patriots are definitely heading in the wrong direction. And Miami might just sprint to the end and just be the only team to come out of that division when we're looking at maybe 3 teams coming out.
Yeah, I think Miami is definitely the best team in this division. But I'm so glad you brought this up because the NFL to me is so hilarious sometimes. You watch the end of that game, McDermott, who is the head football coach and who is calling the defensive calls, runs 2 straight all-out blitzes. One of them was a good call. They got to him. They knocked him out of field goal range. Good job. But then he runs the same blitz again, and they get a pass interference because he leaves his guys back there on an island, and they're set up for a field goal. Then, the Broncos are kind of screwing around, like rushing to get the field goal, and they really didn't have to. And the guy shanks it and misses it, and you got 12 guys on the field. Let me ask a question. How did Ken Dorsey have anything to do with the dumbass all-out blitz or the 12 men on the field? He had nothing to do with that, and yet Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator, gets fired. They should have fired McDermott in the locker room after the game. Everybody loves Sean McDermott. Let me tell you, the guy's a good defensive coordinator. I think he's a shit head coach. They've gone nowhere. They've been so close. Well, yeah, and they screw it up at the end every time in the big games, and they've been underachieving, and they've been really underachieving this year, and it falls on him. It should fall on him.
Well, I brought that up last week. I said I thought McDermott was going to be in the hot seat, but
you were right. You were right. At the time, I was like, I don't know. And then I watched that entire game on Monday night, and I was like, damn, Joe was right. They should fire him right now in the locker room.
But I'm glad you brought up the offensive coordinator getting fired. You know it's becoming in the NFL. It's like in baseball when a team is struggling, fire the pitching coach, fire the hitting coach, because guys aren't doing their jobs or the manager does some stupid things. It's always about, let's get rid of the ancillary coaches. Being a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator in NFL right now, you better be successful, because you're going to take the blame, and you're going to be thrown under the bus well long before the head coach or the GM gets it. So, and like you said, all right, 12 men on the field in that kind of a situation of a game. Maybe, Sean, you should have gotten yourself a defensive coordinator so you'd be watching all this other stuff that you should be watching.
That's what I'm saying. He is in charge of the team as a whole. He needs to make sure it's the last play of the game. They're going to kick a field goal, and you don't have somebody over there counting to make sure that you have your field goal block team going out there. If you're not doing that, you should be fired, because you just lost a game because you had 12 men on the field. That's unacceptable. And, especially when you couple it together with the dumbass all-out blitz, those two things in the row were laughable. Twitter was going nuts. And, it's not just that. There's been other things going on with McDermott throughout the season where he is not doing a great job as a head coach. And, I told you last week, I'm like, I don't know. I think his job is safe. And I don't know what the hell I was talking about, because I was dead wrong, and I would have fired his ass in the locker room after that game if I was in charge.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, hello, Wes. How you doing? Let's see. What I wanted, like I said, I wanted to get into quarterback, because now, of course, we're in the 11th week. NCAA is coming down to the end. So now we're starting to talk about the quarterbacks that are going to be coming out. And I pulled up a list of quarterback classes since 2001. Because there's going to be some, people brought out. The Giants are going to be looking. Vikings are probably going to be looking. There's a lot of big teams going to be looking for quarterbacks. And what I wanted to do was we're going to go over year by year. And we're going to go over the top draft choice. And I want you to give an overall grade to what you think that this year was. Because everybody thinks that every year the greatest quarterback class is going to come out of college football. And it hardly ever turns out to be true. So we're going to start in 2001. Are you ready?
You're talking about grading the class as a whole?
Yeah, the class. I mean, just the top quarterbacks. I'm going to give you the list of these guys that came out. And you give a grade of how good you think this quarterback class was. Okay.
So, you mean coming out or after their careers in the NFL?
After their careers. A lot of them, their careers are over, so we'll know what they were like. But what do you think of? What do you think this class was like? Let me just get. Okay, I'm going to go with 2001. You got Chad Pennington went to the Jets. Michael Vick went to the Falcons. Those are your top two quarterbacks you're talking to on this list. Well, how would you rate that quarterback class? Those two. Would you give them A, B, C, D? What kind of quarterbacks were they overall to you?
Chad Pennington as a quarterback in the NFL, I would have to rate as a C+ or a B, just because the guy was a winner. He took the Jets to the playoffs. He overachieved. He's from right here in Knoxville, Tennessee, buddy, and I never thought he would do that in the NFL. He was an overachiever. He was a great guy, and I you have to say he's a B- kind of quarterback, because of what he did. He was cerebral. He was able to find the open guy, and his arm was good enough. So I would say he's a B. Mike Vick is kind of a tough one, because he's one of the most talented players to ever come out of college. He's one of the most talented players to play in the NFL. He was MVP candidate at two different teams for the Falcons, and also for the Eagles. But, he had that, situation where he was out of football for a while and he was in Leavenworth for 2 years. So if you take that all into account, I still have to give Mike, a solid B as a quarterback, maybe even better than that. I would put him as a B just because of all the turmoil that kind of surrounded him. So I would say B for those two guys. If those are the only two quarterbacks that came out that year, I thought.
No, we're just looking at the first round.
Okay, first round. Okay, gotcha.
So if we go through everyone, we'll be here till midnight. So, anyways, yeah, I agree with you both there, and I think you got to look at Michael Vick and give it a little higher because he was a game changer. Okay, 2002, Patrick Ramsey, forgettable, never even thought about him. He went to the Redskins. Joey Harrington went to the Detroit Lions, and David Carr went to the Texans. How would you rate that class?
I would rate that class as a turd. That is
below an F. Below an F.
I mean, that's a T. That's a T rating. That is a turd class. Honestly, David Carr was a pretty good quarterback. He just got the shit beat out of him in Houston. I mean, he had no protection. It was an expansion franchise. I don't know how you can even what you can even say about him because I never really got to see how good he was because he was broken before we ever got to see him develop. But the rest of those guys were straight hot trash. Whether it was because of the teams they went to, I think in Joey Harrington's case, that could have been part of it. He went to the Lions. They sucked and were a miserable franchise at that time. And then, Patrick Ramsey sucked and should have never been drafted that high.
Right. And now we go to 2003 where Rex Grossman went to the Bears. Kyle Bowler went to the Ravens. Byron Leftwich went to the Jags. And Carson Palmer was with the Bengals. I think this is a good one to look at.
Yeah, Kyle Bowler was hot trash.
Yeah.
That was a horrible draft pick. Carson Palmer was a solid pro. He could never, get past the first round in the playoffs. We'll
never know that knee injury. That knee injury changed his career.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he was kind of a guy. I mean, he was good. He was a good, deliverer of the football. And when he had TJ Hushmanzada and Chad Ochocinco Johnson in Cincinnati, they had some pretty potent offenses. Rudy Johnson and the running backs room. And they got some yards, but, was he the greatest quarterback in the world? I mean, I don't know. I definitely probably make him a B in my mind. Who were the other two guys?
Let me go back down. Hold on yet. Let's see. Joey Harrington was trash. Byron Leftwich.
Yeah, Leftwich was a pretty good backup quarterback. He had some good years in Jacksonville, where he led the Jaguars to some playoff wins when they had Maurice Jones-Drew and some of those squads. So, I give Leftwich some credit. He stuck around for a long time. But overall, with the other two guys, I'd probably do about a C with this class, C minus maybe as the best because there wasn't anybody that really broke out, and then there was some low hanging fruit there as well. As Wes Hall would say, JAG. You know what JAG stands for?
Just another guy?
Just a guy. Yeah.
2004, J.P. Lossman went to the Buffalo Bills, if you remember that. Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, and Eli Manning.
Yeah, I mean, this was a pretty good class, honestly. When you're talking about three potential Hall of Famers in Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, as Wes Hall would say, J.P. Lossman was a turd. But those other three guys are Hall of Fame quarterbacks or potential Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And yeah, I would say A because you don't really get three guys in the first round that become Hall of Famers very often. But that was one of those classes where they did. And, Ben Roethlisberger, that was kind of a big reach going after a guy that played for Miami of Ohio and bringing him in and making him your starter in his rookie year. I know they didn't really mean to. Tommy Maddox got hurt and they had to throw him out there. But man,
it paid off.
It paid off. They won a Super Bowl. and he he did some great things for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And honestly, I think he's kind of underrated because at the end they kind of leaned on him and kind of expected him to win games himself, and didn't have a whole lot around him some of the time.
Yeah, I can't say I give. I don't differ with you there. Just like my feeling on Ben is shaded because Eli, and I always looked at them as rivals. So we'll just leave that at that. But I totally agree with your assessment of that draft choice. 2005, Jason Campbell went to the Redskins. Aaron Rodgers went to the Packers. Alex Smith went to the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Smith was a starter in this league for a long time, and did some really good things. Won games in San Francisco once they finally got him a decent team around him, and then he went to Kansas City, and he was pretty good there until they drafted his replacement in Patrick Mahomes. And then he went to Washington and played pretty well there until he almost lost his leg.
Yeah,
from a flesh-eating bacteria. But he had a lot of shit on his shoulders when he got into the league, being the number one pick and getting drafted ahead of Aaron Rodgers and all that kind of thing. So I think Alex Smith kind of got a raw deal. He was a really good college quarterback, really good high school quarterback at Helix High School. Imagine this. Alex Smith took the ball from the center and either handed it to or threw it to Reggie Bush.
Nice.
Can you imagine as a high school defensive coordinator trying to stop those two guys? Yeah. Good luck with that. But I think he's a pretty solid. I'd even make him a C+ kind of guy as far as Alex Smith goes. And then obviously Aaron Rodgers was an A and is a Hall of Fame first ballot Hall of Famer. And Jason Campbell was a starter in this league for a long time. So
right.
I'd say a good solid B. For that draft class and those three guys together as a group.
2006, we start out with Jay Cutler out of Vanderbilt going to the Broncos. Then you got Matt Leinart out of USC going to the Cardinals. You got Vince Young out of Texas going to the Titans. Yep.
Those three guys, it's kind of a weird draft class, honestly. I mean, you'd think that Matt Leinart or Vince Young would have been the headliners from those, that group of three. But honestly, Jay Cutler had the best pro career of any of them. Vince Young started out hot. He was the rookie of the year. He led the Titans to the playoffs. And then, man, he had some mental difficulties, which is a shame because he was, a good football player, one of the best college football players I ever saw. But had some head issues and couldn't take the heat as a starting quarterback in the NFL, which God, who the hell can? So I feel bad for VY, but he started off pretty good, and Matt Leinart, he just for whatever reason was garbage. I think he was kind of a one of those
system guy.
Yeah, that me and you talk about, like he looked great in Los Angeles with Reggie Bush and Lendell White behind him, and Steve Smith and Dwayne Jarrett to throw to, and
throw up any
Dominique Byrd.
And an offensive line full of All-Americans.
Yeah, I mean, I could have thrown for a few yards on that squad. So, he looked real good in college, but was not a great NFL quarterback for whatever reason. So, I'd probably say C is the best I can give a grade for those three guys just because of the failures.
Yeah, you're pushing it there.
Yeah, the next one is C-.
This is another turd class here. Brady Quinn and Jamarcus Russell.
Enough said. Brady Quinn, at first I thought it was just because he went to the Browns that he sucked, because everybody that plays for the Browns sucked for a long time there, and I just kind of chalked that up to, he went to the Browns. God love him. He plays for the Browns. He's not going to be good. But then he went to like 7 different teams after that. He sucked everywhere. So I think he just sucked. And then, Jamarcus, he couldn't put down the scissor and, was probably blowing dro every day and getting lit and refusing to practice, watch tape, or stay under 300 pounds. I can't really get mad at Jamarcus, though. I mean, that guy, he lived his whole life trying to get to the NFL and get paid and get out of where he was from and be the first guy that could actually, make some cash. And he did. So I'd say to him, that was a success, making $80 million as a 20-year-old. So
as long as he still has it.
I wouldn't put cash on that, but I would not put cash on the fact that he's got any money left. But he might have some. But those two guys were trash.
All right, the next class is very interesting here. We got 2008, Joe Flacco, Matt Ryan. Joe Flacco and Matt Ryan.
Just those two?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give that an A. Matt Ryan was an MVP in the league. He led the Falcons to a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. I don't know what more you would want than those two guys. So, than that from those two guys. So I gotta give them an A.
Had long productive careers. 2009, we had Josh Freeman going to the Buccaneers. We had Mark Sanchez, the butt fumble boy, going to the Jets. And Matt Stafford, overall number 1.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Stafford is going to be the best, obviously, out of that group. He's still playing, and he's suffering some injuries, but he did win a Super Bowl. You got to give credit to him. Who are the other two guys? I'm sorry.
Mark Sanchez and I got to go back down. Hold on one second. It was Mark Sanchez and Josh Freeman.
Yeah. Well, Sanchez is funny, man. He actually played pretty well his first couple years in the league. He went to the AFC Championship game with Sexy Rexy Ryan, and everybody was loving that draft pick. And then, after that, the defense wasn't quite as good, and the offensive line, lost some of their luster. Nick Mangold was still there, but DeBrickashaw kind of got towards the end of his career, and God damn it, I'm forgetting the guard from the Steelers. He started getting a little old in the tooth, and
Alan
Faneca.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, he started getting older, and so that offensive line wasn't what it was good, and you started to see the warts on Mark Sanchez's face, both literally and figuratively. And so he started to go down. But Josh Freeman was essentially a bust.
Yeah.
He came out, started a few games. They thought he was going to be their franchise guy down in Tampa Bay. And Mark Dominic got his ass fired for drafting Josh Freeman. So I think he would probably give Freeman an F. But, with Stafford and with Sanchez, I think we could probably give them a C+ to even it out.
I got to tell you one thing. I was listening to Sanchez do an analysis. I forget what show he's on this week. And he actually was pretty intelligent and pretty entertaining when he was breaking down some tape. So I got to give him credit.
I like him calling games. Have you heard him calling games?
I haven't gotten one of his, but he's just from that 10-minute segment he was there. He was analyzing this offense, and he really knew. I learned a lot listening to him. So I was happy to listen to him. So I give him credit for that.
I like listening to him do the color for games. I think he does a pretty good job, and he's less annoying than Tony Romo.
Yeah, God, who isn't? All right, 2010. This is definitely leaning towards a bust class. You had Tim Tebow, and you had Sam Bradford.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a hard one, man. I mean, I guess first round draft picks. I mean, Sam Bradford was the number 1 player overall taken. I think he was the last guy that got $80 million handed to him.
Right.
And unfortunately for him, he got, he had some injuries and, got banged up, but
he showed some flashes.
He did show some flashes and then won some games for a couple of different teams. The Rams, he won a couple of games. The Vikings, he won some games. And then he just kind of got banged up and was never able to come back from that. Tebow, he took the Broncos to the playoffs and won a playoff game. It was a little bit unorthodox, in the way that he did it, considering he brought the wishbone back to the NFL. But it was fun to watch there for one season. Then he never really got to play again. But it was fun to watch that 1 year. I mean, I don't know how you put a grade on those guys, but I think, giving them a C- is probably being nice.
I mean, Tebow, maybe in the days of RPO, if RPOs were bigger back then, maybe he could add more production. I don't know, but we'll never know. But yeah, I think that kind of maybe we can give them kind of an incomplete because neither of them ever were given the right situation to maybe shine in. So maybe an incomplete on that one.
Yeah, I think if Tebow was playing today and he got drafted in today's day and age, I think somebody would create an offense that might work for him.
Imagine him in the Tyson Hill role.
Yeah, Taysom Hill. Yeah, I could see him doing something like that. I think there's a place for him in the NFL, and why nobody did something like that with him, I'll never know. The Jets drafted him or traded for him, and then never even put him on the field except for a punt team. And I that made no sense. Why take him if you're not going to play him? I mean, it just made no sense.
I mean, he was Taysom Hill before Taysom Hill. 2011, trending towards a third class. Christian Ponder went to the Vikings. The immortal Blaine Gabbert went to the Jags. Jake Locker with the Titans. But then Cam Newton kind of saves this class.
Yeah, Cam Newton is definitely the only one in 2011 that was worth a shit. Christian Ponder and Jake Locker both got drafted way higher than they were projected. It was just a product of several teams needing a quarterback that year. The Vikings needed a quarterback. They moved up to get Christian Ponder. The Titans needed a quarterback in the worst way after Steve McNair, and they went after Jake Locker. They had tried Matt Hasselbeck. They had tried Kerry Collins. I mean, they brought in anyone they could find on the street, and nothing really worked. And then they got Jake Locker, and that was worse than the guys they had before, and he was just a complete disaster. And Blaine Gabbert, as bad as he sucked as a starting quarterback, he was a backup for 10 plus years in the NFL. So you got to give him a little bit of credit for that. He's got more cash than you or I do. So we'll give him credit for that. But overall, I'd give the class, a C, because I would say Cam Newton, MVP of the league, took him to a Super Bowl. Got to give him an A, just from a draft standpoint. That's what you want. You want to win an MVP. You want an MVP quarterback. You want to get to the Super Bowl with your quarterback. He did that. And then the rest of these guys are trash. So we'll go C with that.
In 2012, we had Brandon Weeden going to the Browns. Sounds like a Brown pick. Ryan Tannehill to the Dolphins. Robert Griffin III goes to Washington. And Andrew Luck to the Colts.
Honestly, this wasn't a bad draft class, except for Brandon Weeden. I mean, right. RG3 was the rookie of the year and played very well in the NFL till he tore his knee. And then, then he was a decent backup, honestly, after that, especially for the Ravens. I didn't know why the Ravens got rid of him. I thought he did a pretty good job when he came in for Lamar. Andrew Luck was a really good quarterback until the injuries started piling up, and then he called it quits because he, couldn't get through a season healthy. Tannehill was kind of a bust in Miami, but reinvented himself for a few years there in Tennessee. Got to give him credit for that. And Brandon Weeden, I cannot believe that guy was drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. 22nd overall.
Wow. There you go. There you have it right
Typical
there.
Browns.
Another example of why the Browns sucked for years. That's just a horrible draft pick. Would he put up some numbers at Oklahoma State? Yep. A lot of quarterbacks have, and they've never done anything in the NFL.
All right. Then we go to 2013, where E.J. Manuel goes to Buffalo. Teddy Bridgewater goes to – wait a minute. What's that?
He went to the Vikings.
Yeah, but wait. I think E.J. Manuel was the only quarterback take – wait, let me just make sure I'm looking at this right. Okay, 2013, E.J. Manuel. Okay, yeah, that was – hold on, this is confusing here. EJ Manuel was the only first-round quarterback in 2013, so I guess that's a turd one.
Yeah, I mean, he was not good. He was he actually played a little bit better at times in the NFL than I thought he would, but he was not really like a starter. That was kind of a weird draft, honestly, that year. I think Eric Fisher was the first pick, and then Luke Joeckel was the second pick. Neither one of those guys was even the greatest offensive lineman in the world. In fact, Deion Jordan was the third pick out of Oregon, and he kind of was trash too. And the best pick out of the top 10 was Lane Johnson, who went fourth overall to the Eagles and is still there kicking people's ass. But EJ Manuel, I believe, was the only quarterback taken. I think that Teddy Bridgewater was pretty early in the second round, so we could
Teddy Bridgewater went in 14. He went the next year.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So Teddy was actually the 32nd pick of 2014.
I knew he was right there on the cusp of first, second round.
Johnny Manziel is in this draft. The immortal Blake Bortles is in this class, and that's it.
Yeah, that's trash. I mean, Bridgewater's the only guy that even stuck around for a lengthy period of time. Blake Bortles won a couple of games, but I think we had it proven to us that it wasn't because of him. I mean, it was the team that he had around him, and he was not. He kind of looked better than he was there for a while, but he was not really a good quarterback. I think D is probably where we have to go with that, especially because of Johnny Football sucking so bad.
Yeah. And then 2015, we got Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I mean that's a kind of a weird class because those two guys did start in the NFL for a while. Jameis started for several years at Tampa Bay, and Marcus Mariota was the starter for two teams. He was the starter for the Titans for several years, and then also started some games in Atlanta. But neither one
Raiders.
of those.
Wasn't he with the Raiders too? Didn't he start a couple?
He was the backup for the Raiders. He was Derek Carr's backup.
Okay.
And they would kind of put him in there on some goal line packages. And remember, he kind of resurrected his career because he would come in on third down and run the option, or come in on the goal line and run the read option and stuff like that. And that got him the starting job in Atlanta, but that didn't last long. But these guys never really panned out for whatever reason. And I think you kind of have to put a C grade on them at best.
Both Heisman Trophy winners. And then 2016, you got Paxton Lynch, Carson Wentz, and Jared Goff.
Yeah, well, Jared Goff is turned out to be a hell of a quarterback. I thought he was pretty damn good before when he took the Rams to the Super Bowl, but all that did was get him traded. Carson Wentz actually had some pretty good years for Philadelphia. I'm not sure. I think he was kind of overrated in a sense that they went a little quick on giving him that big contract, and then once he got all the money, it seemed like he was a little bit too much for him, and I think he was a little bit, like I said, over evaluated, so to speak. So tough titty playing quarterback in the NFL, and Paxton Lynch was one of the biggest busts of all time. I would equate Paxton Lynch with Brandon Weeden pretty much. Those guys had the same damn career. But I think with Jared Goff still doing what he's doing, and Carson Wentz taking a team essentially to the Super Bowl, I think you got to give that class a C plus, just especially if you look at it against some of these other classes.
Yep. 2017, we got Deshaun Watson, who we talked about earlier in this game. Patrick Mahomes is going to tip the scale way upward. Mitch Trubisky, when you think that he was drafted ahead of Pat Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, kind of takes that whole draft down. But those are those three.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go A just because of Patrick Mahomes. I mean, they kind of traded up and reached for him at the time. A lot of people thought, and he's turned out to be potentially, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And that's pretty good to get that guy at 10. And, to think Mitch Trubisky's not that bad. He took the Bears to the playoffs a couple times, and, he's still playing quarterback and backing up Kenny Pickett for the Steelers. And, we got to give him credit for that. Deshaun Watson certainly proved before all the debacles that occurred that he was a good quarterback in the NFL. So you got to go A with those three guys.
Then we got 2018. We got Lamar, which takes you up to an A to begin with, but then it's followed by Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield. A lot of talent in there somewhere, A
lot of talent. That's actually a really talented draft class. Baker is doing some really good things, I think, right now in Tampa, and also, broke the drought in Cleveland. So I give Baker a solid B. Sam Darnold, I give a D plus, simply because he's still in the league, serving as the backup, the number 2 for the 49ers. Josh Allen, I know lots of people are down on him right now, but he has had some good years. And then Josh Rosen was a turd. So I still think you average that out to about a C plus, just because of Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield tilt the scales in their favor.
Yeah, I might go a little higher than that. I mean, the real turd in the whole max is if you take Josh Rosen out of there, that's got to be an A.
Well, Sam Darnold was a absolute bust in New York.
True. Yeah, true.
I mean, they couldn't win. He was seeing ghosts. He couldn't throw it to the right team. I mean, it was a disaster. And he never led him to the playoffs. He was horrible. They couldn't get rid of him fast enough. Now, since then, he's played a little bit better because he's got some experience, but he's still not a starting quarterback in this league.
No. 2019, we got Dwayne Haskins, who tragically died, but it was, who knows? We'll never know. Got to give him an incomplete. Daniel Jones and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's not looking real good right now for any of these guys. Dwayne, unfortunately, had his life cut way too short, and unfortunately got drafted by the Redskins at the time. So, he had a real rough go of it after he got out of Ohio State. Kyler Murray, he's had some good games. At the beginning of the season, when he's healthy and can run around, he's able to push the envelope and win some games. But, he's so small that towards the end of the year, he starts getting banged up. He can't move around as well. And when he doesn't have his legs, he's not the same guy. So Daniel Jones had one good season. I'll give him that so far. But, I think given these guys, you really just have to look at Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones. What do you say, Joe? I don't even know.
I think incomplete at best. I think you're trending towards a D with that class right now.
Yeah, C to C minus to D plus, maybe, if we're being nice.
All right, we're gonna do one more. We got 2020 Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Tua, Joe Burrow. That's a solid A.
Yeah, that is an A, no doubt.
Now, the reason I took us through this whole thing is so many of these people, I'm listening to these people already, drafting quarterbacks, where they're going to end up. We just went through 21st rounds of quarterbacks. And I think we had 5 solid classes. 5.
Yeah, I think four A's and one B, B plus. 4 A's and 1 B plus.
And these people fall in love. This is where these pundits and shows mislead the normal fan. That's 5 out of 20. So that's 25% of your quarterback classes are good classes. 75% suck. And everybody thinks they're going to bring these guys in here and they're going to turn on a dime. It's not just going to happen. The draft isn't always just about a quarterback. It's about the rest of the draft. It's about what he's joining. It's about having the right coach there. And I just get so sick of these people who try and turn sports into a mathematical equation.
Well, the tanking crap is okay for I mean, I don't like it, but you can do it in basketball because all you need is one guy.
Right.
In the NFL, one guy isn't going to do anything for you. It can help if you get Joe Burrow, but there's not many Joe Burrows, okay? And there's no guarantee that you're going to get Joe Burrow. So I think the it's been proven over time, time and time again, that the draft is a roll of the dice, and it doesn't really matter who it is. As great as they could possibly be in college, there's just no guarantee that their game is going to translate. And we all think we know whose game is going to, but it all comes down to the individual, the team that they go to, the scheme that they run on that team, and it's all hard to predict based on the circumstances surrounding the guy. You just don't know what a guy is going to want to do. Does a guy love football? Does he love winning? Does he care about nothing more than just making the team better and winning? Does he want to be the best of himself? Or does he play football because it's the one way he can get paid a ton of money? And you just don't really know that unless you know the guy really well. And even then, you don't know what it's going to look like till you get him out there on the field in your system.
Right, exactly. And are you going to have the patience for him to work through his warts, for him to learn the game? Is he going to be given time to figure out the game? Because nobody comes in there and just hits the ground running. Even Joe Burrow, even Patrick Mahomes had to learn along the way. So that was the whole point of that exercise there. We're about to wrap up, but I wanted to get your assessment. I know we're early into the season so far, but how's that Harden-Westbrook experiment working out in LA?
I don't know, man. I mean, I really don't understand why he's still in the league. And I'm talking about Westbrook, and then Harden. It doesn't matter where he goes. Mediocrity follows him. I mean, I thought honestly the best place for him was in Philly,
right?
Because Joel Embiid was so good that he just needed somebody that could hit some shots from the outside. And so, that was the one thing that he could kind of do. So I thought that was a good spot. And then, he, of course, can't get along with anybody there, which is his norm. And he thinks there's going to be tons of suitors. And really, the only place that he could go is to a team that has, a bunch of Hall of Fame caliber of players already on it. And I'm talking about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and Russell Westbrook, and they're 3-7. So,
well, Paul George is left, so Paul George is gone.
Oh, he's still on the Clippers?
No, I thought Paul George is up with the Warriors.
I don't know. He played on Tuesday for the Clippers.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Who did the Warriors?
I think you're talking about Chris Paul.
Oh, okay. Was it Chris Paul? Why did I think Paul George? Oh, whatever. Either way,
Paul George plays for the Clippers. He is averaging 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists right now for the LA Clippers. He's the one guy that's actually playing well. Like I said, he played in the game on I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday night. The Clippers played the Nuggets. They actually played the Nuggets pretty tough, but that was mainly because of Paul George. He had 35 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists.
Yeah. Anyways, my biggest thing was to sit there and, you got just putting Harden and Westbrook back together, and they worked so well down there in OKC. I was like, where did that idea come from?
Yeah, they did work well. They did play well together in OKC a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
That was 10 plus years ago now. I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you want from those guys. They are not. I do not pick the Clippers to win the West. How about that?
Not at all. So, anyways, we're gonna say goodnight. Next week's Thanksgiving. I don't know if maybe we can come on earlier in the week if we got some time. I got some time. If you have some time to do something, maybe we can preview the Thanksgiving Day weekend games. Talk about what goes on this weekend. and get back to it. If not, we will see everybody after Thanksgiving holiday. Thanks for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Lots of football to be seen over the next, and we have the first Black Friday football with the Jets and Miami playing that day.
I like it. Yeah, there's a very good game on tonight, the Bengals and the Ravens. So everybody go check that out and enjoy.
That's what I'm getting for. Take it easy, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.